Sleek lines, fun to watch, and cutting quickly through the air. That explains the jet class perfectly, and now, here to give us a very in-depth look at both the airplane and the pilot requirements for the jet class is pilot and instructor Rick VanDam. Rick always brings a great insight and explanation to all things flying. So Rick, we're in front of race 5 here at the jet class at PRS here at Reno. Talk a little bit about what the airplane is, what it's like to fly the course, some of the unique things about the airplane that the audience would really like.
Well, this is race 5, American Spirit. It's actually was a Czechoslovakian fighter jet built over in Prague, Czechoslovakia in 1973 and was used extensively in the factory as one of their test airplanes for the development of the L-39 Albatross. The particular one I have here has been highly modified for racing here in Reno. On a jet airplane, as opposed to your car, which is called an internal combustion. On a jet airplane, all of the air goes in the intake and it goes through what we call a fan, very similar to the fan that's on your ceiling fan at home or a fan just blowing around. Well, the air goes in and it runs through the fan, which compresses the air. By compressing the air, we're able to put a lot more air. We put it under very high pressure, which makes it very hot. We put fuel in it and ignite it, and it goes through the opposite side called a turbine. And as it expands through the turbine, that's what gives us thrust in a jet airplane.
We'll be right back with the second part of Rick's interview. Now for a special treat, let's join Jet Class President Phil Fogg as he takes us around the race course from a bird's eye view.
We're going to start right now on the home stretch, the crowd here, the home pylon, and we begin to go by the runway. Pylon 1 starts the race, and we're in practically a 90-degree dive. We'll pass pylons 2. Pylons 3 brings us out to the north end of the race course where the terrain comes up closer to us. So we're really flying a flat line, but we get seemingly lower because the terrain comes up to us. And then hiding right down here is pylon 4, and you see it there. We're coming tight around pylon 4. At that point, you start to look up ahead and look at pylon 5. Once you've got that made, you're seeking now to see pylon 6. Passing pylon 6 puts you into what we call the valley of speed. It's valley of speed because you get to go wings level or almost momentarily and build up a little speed before you start into 7 and 8, and we're back to home pylon in approximately 59 seconds to 1 minute at about 500 miles an hour.
Phil, thank you for that special treat from Jet Race 8. Now back to Rick VanDam, who has moved into the cockpit for the final portion of his session.
Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about the cockpit of the L-39 as we get ready to go out and race. It's very important that one thing is we're concerned about safety. And so that's why a lot of the stuff that I start with right here is I'm wearing a Nomex fireproof flight suit. It is to help us just in case. In a moment, I will be getting my gloves and you will see my crash helmet. Now, in the cockpit, we strap in. What we will be doing is getting into, there's two parts of it. One is we're getting into a parachute right now. The parachute is, again, a safety feature that we have. And it's just like a parachute that you've seen on TV, and this one. But this one is actually attached to the ejection seat here. If we had a serious problem and had to get out of the airplane, we would use the seat to help us get out of the airplane. Some of the other things we do to prepare ourselves for the race is we get mentally prepared. It's very important when you're doing something that is very hazardous and that you get, as a friend of mine said, when you start racing, you learn to concentrate. So typically a half an hour to an hour before the race, you will see the pilot probably by himself, and he is thinking his way through everything we're getting ready to occur. He is thinking about the race. He is thinking about the race course. He's thinking about what's going to be going on in his airplane. We have a lot of dials and gauges and instruments that are monitoring the engine, our airspeed, our altitude, and all that. He has to put those kind of in the back of his mind, because we're going to be flying 40 to 60 feet off the ground in excess of 500 miles an hour. And you have to learn to concentrate on what you're doing at that time. And you cannot get distracted by someone or something around you. We are very task oriented, and we're concentrating on the airplanes, the ground, the pylons, and what we're doing. We do not have a lot of time to look at instruments and hear warning bells and some of the typical things you would normally find in a recreational or a civilian pilot. So that's the mindset we get in prior to the race.
Rick, I can't thank you enough for sharing your great insight with us. It is always a pleasure to sit down and listen to your stories of pilot and planes and achieving the greatest success of both.